Hi everyone, we have been doing in IB psychology about memory, that how memory encoding happens, how then retrieval happens, then types of memory and so on with the supporting studies. Now we in this session, in this video today, will be talking about the reliability of cognitive processes. Whatever cognitive processes are happening, the encoding is happening, then retrieval is happening, storage of the information is happening, how memory takes place in STM and LTM, and then the retrieval. How reliable is this whole process is. So whatever information is going inside from our senses, whatever information goes in our head, how reliable it is. Can we retrieve the whole thing as it is? For example, you go out to watch a movie. When you see a movie, are you able to recall this movie exactly the same way that you had seen? If your friend comes and asks you that, how was the movie? Can you tell me in detail about the scenes and the dialogues and everything? You were watching a movie, but are you able to recall every single dialogue, every single scene that you had seen in the movie? No, you cannot do that. There can be lot of omission, addition, subtraction, editing in whatever you retrieve. So that means when you saw the movie, it is not necessary that you'll be able to recall every single 3-hour movie or 2-hour movie scenes and dialogues word to word to your friend. You cannot do that. Why this happens and how reliable is your memory? So today's session we are going to talk about that. Hi, I'm Sonia Anand. I'm the psychologist and I teach psychology for all the boards and general psychology for general population as well. So if you like my video, do subscribe to it. So let's get started. We have been talking about memory in that, like I told you, that when you see a movie, when you watch a movie, and when your friend asks you that how was the movie, you're not able to recall the whole movie as it is. The reason is that there are a number of factors that is distorting your memory all the time. So that is called as reconstructive memory. That means when you are encoding, when you see the information, you store the information in your brain, and when you're trying to recall it, retrieval is happening. The same information that went in your memory, in your head, it is not coming out exactly the same way. There are always changes and alterations in that memory. Why is it happening? There are a number of reasons. You have your own imagination. You sometimes imagine things that add on to the memory. Maybe sometimes you pay more attention to something. That is why you are able to remember those things more, and the things that you had not paid attention to, you're not able to recall it that well. Then comes in your schema, then comes in your your own thought process, how you are influencing your memory. All these things influence the memory, and memory can be distorted. Now again, I'm giving you the example of, let's say, an event. Okay, so you went to this concert and a singer, your favorite band, is playing all the songs. So when you come back and your mother asks you how was the concert and can you tell me in detail what all happened. So in that, the things that irritated you, maybe a lot of traffic and too much of crowd, or things that you were very happy about, your singer singing the songs, or your favorite song he that sang, or maybe he threw his jacket towards you or something like that. So the happy moments, the sad moments, the things that touched you emotionally, you're able to recall those things. Or maybe things that you imagined after a few months when your friend asks you how was the concert that happened 6 months back. That time some of the memory has been erased from your storage. Now why this has happened? Maybe things that were not very important to you have been erased, or things that were very important to you, those are there. Things that you wanted to happen, maybe because of your imagination, those things are added on to your memory. Then there are some alterations. Your schema of concert was little different. Maybe it's an, let's say you had scheme of the concert in an auditorium on a stage, like in an enclosed space, but first time you went and you saw it is all together in an open ground, and it is very different from what you have thought. So that schema also plays a role, and it influences your memory. So your schema, your surroundings, your past experiences, your emotions, your feelings, your attention, Everything is influencing your memory, and when these things influences your memory, whatever you retrieve, you recall, it is not exactly the same the way it had gone, the way it had got stored. So the retrieval is quite different, and that is called as reconstructive memory, because whole of your memory has been reconstructed in a very different way. Okay, so there are a lot of alterations. Now imagine sometimes when somebody asks you when you were 10 years old, okay, like many years back, you had gone on a vacation. How's the vacation like? Now there's so many things you won't remember, or you might recall some things which really never happened, but you are recalling it. This could be filling in the gaps in your memory with your own imagination. You're imagining that you were at the beach and maybe you drowned or something, and your dad came to help you. So there are few gaps in your memory you are not able to recall, so our imagination fill in those gaps sometimes. So that is also one of the thing that leads to distorted memory. We are going to do number of terminologies which will help you to understand the whole concept much better. The first terminology is confabulation. What is confabulation? It means that you have a memory which has been distorted. There are a number of gaps in the memory. So you unconsciously, not deliberately, unknowingly, you fill in these gaps with some information. It can be fabricated information, misinterpreted information, which you are filling in with. Now you don't do it consciously. You don't know that you're doing it consciously. It happens very unconsciously. You are not aware of it, that you are filling in these gaps in your memory deliberately. So when it happens unconsciously, that means these people who are confabulating, it is that they do not know, they have no intention of deceiving the other person. It is happening very naturally. Many a times in courts, when the trials are going on, in law courts we are talking about. So when the trials are going on and a person has to recall from past, many a times it happens that you're not able to recall, you're forced to recall an event that happened maybe a few years back. And when you're not able to recall, unknowingly, unconsciously, you fill in the gaps with some misinterpreted, maybe you are connecting it with some other event altogether, and you are adding on some things from your imagination, you're omitting some things which were not important. So what happens, your memory get distorted, and when in the trial, when you're giving a statement, that time maybe that statement is not 100% correct, because it is coming from way long back and you don't remember many things, so your memory is not helping you. In this situation, in confabulation, most of the people, they do not know that their memory is distorted, and they do not do it deliberately. It happens unconsciously, and the purpose is not to deceive, because it is happening naturally. Another terminology is episodic memory. What is episodic memory? It means the memory of an particular episode. For example, some event, some vacation, a particular day, or any such thing. So any particular episode memory that you have of is called an episodic memory. So you remember how exactly the things had happened that day, how things smelled, or even how you felt, what were your emotions during that time. Maybe let's say some accident or some tragedy took place, and you are able to, that was an episode. Or maybe when your grandparent passed away, during that time, what was the episode? You're still, after many years, you're able to recall. You say that how people were coming and how people were grieving, what all they were saying, who all had come, what were you feeling from inside, how sad you were. All these things, when you remember of a particular event, that is called an episodic memory. The next terminology is leveling. In leveling, what happens is you are able to recall those things which are important to you or what you understood. But things that you are not able to understand, or things you misinterpreted, you are not, you did not pay much attention to, you tend to forget those things. For example, I just came across people who recently watched Oppenheimer, the movie, and or Interstellar as well. So some of people were not able to understand the movie completely because they felt it was very complicated. So when, people were asked that what was the movie about, they were able to tell only a few things from the movie. Now, those few things were where you actually paid attention. Second, the things you actually understood in that movie, those things you were able to tell. And the things that you were not able to understand, that were too complicated, not too very important for you, so you were not able to recall it later. So this is called leveling. Fourth is misinformation effect. In this, what happens? We have an original event, memory of an original event in our mind, and after that, a few things happened. So what happened? The things that happened after the incident, those things keep on interfering with the original event that happens, and you tend to get confused. This is called as misinformation effect. So whatever happened later, that is kind of affecting your memory. For example, your mom told you to give you a grocery list and you had not written it. It's just in your mind. So you remember, okay, I have to bring onion, apple, cucumber, bread, cornflakes and soap and Dettol and things like that. So you have a list of, in grocery list in your mind. And when you actually go there, in the departmental store, you see so many things. So when you see so many things, now after seeing so many things, these things might interfere with the original list that your mother gave you. So next day when your mother asks you, what all did I tell you? Maybe you're not able to recall everything from the grocery list, and maybe the things that you saw in the departmental store, those things you are either adding or by mistake. So that is misinformation effect. You are not able to recall the exact thing from the original event. Next is reconstructive memory, that I have already told you what is it. When your memory is being distorted by your cognitive processes, when your own imagination, your thought processes, your perception, your schemas, your past experiences, all of these cognitive processes are influencing your memory becomes distorted. This is called as reconstructive memory. Next is very interesting terminology, false memory. I really like this terminology. I'll tell you why. Now, false memory is what? When somebody tries to implant a memory in your brain and you feel that it is real. That is a false memory. For example, there is a child who is a very fussy eater and they don't like eating veggies at all, and every time I bring veggies to that child and they're like, no, I don't want to eat, this is too bad, I want a burger or a pizza, I don't want to eat these veggies. So what is happening? They're not liking it and they're being very, very fussy. So what I do, I implant a false memory. I just tell them a story. You know what? When you were very small, you used to love carrots so much. Every time, morning, evening, afternoon, every time you wanted to have carrot only. Carrot used to be your favorite. You would ask me always, give me carrot, give me a carrot. So that was your favorite and you used to relish it so much. So this child starts thinking that, now the child thinks that this is the fact, this is the reality. Okay, when I was small, I used to love carrot. So maybe if I try now, I might like it. And the child might try the carrot. So I have been successful in tricking him. Why? Because of the false memory. I have given him a false memory that when you were small, you used to love carrot. So the child now believes in this, that when I was small, I used to love carrot. Now this has a benefit that the child might try carrot now and they actually start liking some veggies, like using this technique. So this is what false memory. You implant a memory in somebody's brain by saying that this thing had happened, or that event had happened, or that girl was wearing a red top when she came in. So this false memory, implanting of a memory, is called a false memory, which never happened, but you just implant in other person's brain. Now we have understood what is reconstructive memory. We have understood some terminologies under this. And now the main idea of this whole session today, lesson today, is that memory cannot be trusted completely. If somebody says that I remember so and so thing, or trying to recall, we cannot trust our memory completely, because many a times it is distorted by so many things around, with our own imagination, with our own prior experiences, our own imagination, our schemas and so on, due to which whatever comes out, it could be, some things could be added on, some things are subtracted, some things are. So now we know the concept. What is it? It is for IB psychology students, it is important to know some studies, supporting studies. So in this lesson, I'm going to give you one supporting study and also one counter argument. Very important, a study against the reconstructive memory. So for reconstructive, it is like memory is not reliable, and counter argument that memory is a reliable thing. So when the question command term comes as discuss, okay, in discuss you need to write a study which is a supporting study, and then you need to write a counter argument. That counter argument is going to help you structure your answer better. So I'm going to give you both. So let's do the study, very famous by Loftus and Palmer. So this study was by Loftus and Palmer, 1974, the theory of reconstruction memory and eyewitness testimony. The aim of the research was to investigate whether the use of leading questions would affect an eyewitness's estimation of speed. Now there were 45 students participated in the experiment. 45 students participated in the experiment. They were divided into 5 groups of 9 students. 7 short films of traffic accidents were shown. These films were taken from driver's education films. When the participants had watched a film, they were asked to give an account of the accident they had seen, and then they answered a questionnaire with different questions about the accident. There was one critical question which was asked the participant to estimate the speed of the car involved in the accident. The participants were asked the same question, but the critical question included different verbs. 9 participants were asked how fast were the cars going when they hit each other. The critical word hit was replaced by collided, bumped, smashed, or contacted in the other conditions, which each had 9 participants answering the questions. The researchers predicted that using the word smashed would result in higher estimation of speed than using the word hit. The independent variable was the different intensities of the verbs used in the critical question, and the dependent variable was an estimation of speed. The main estimates of speed were highest in the smashed condition, that is 40.8 mile per hour. The lowest in the contacted group, 31.8 mile per hour. The results were significant. The findings were that the more intense the word that was used, the higher the average estimation. In a second variation of the study, 150 students were randomly allocated to one of the 3 conditions. Participants were asked only one of 2 questions, either how fast the cars were going when they smashed, or when they hit each other. A third group, the control group, was not asked anything. The participants were asked to come back a week later, and without re-watching the video, they were asked one of the questions. Did you see the broken glass? Yes or no? Now the results showed that those who had originally had the question with more intense verb smashed were more likely to recall seeing broken glass than those that had the less intense verb hit. Number of participants recalling broken glass in experiment 2. So Loftus argues that when the different verbs were used, they activate schemas that have a different sense of meaning. When the question is asked using smashed, the connotation of the verb influences how the memory is formed. These 2 studies were controlled laboratory experiments, so we should question whether there are problems with ecological validity. The situation is quite artificial, which lowers its external validity. When watching a video of a car crash, one does not experience the emotions that one would experience when actually seeing a real car accident. Thus, emotion or stress, which are conditions normal for eyewitness, are absent in her research. There may also be a problem in using closed questions where people have to answer yes or no. In addition, all of the participants were students, which means the sample is biased. The research also begs the question of how well people are able to estimate speed. This too may have had an influence on the results. I think I did not tell you about the leading question when we were doing the terminologies, the knowledge of terminologies. So leading question is what? That I frame my question or I frame my statement in such a manner that it influences your answer. Now in this, what happened in this experiment, the participant was asked, there were 45 participants, and they were shown a picture of cars hitting each other, an accident. Okay, the question that they were given were different. To some participants, they were asked that at what speed the car was hit each other. Okay, now here the word hit is given. Some of the participants were asked question, what was the speed of the car when they smashed each other? And the third were given, what was the speed of the car when they contacted each other? Now here, this is a leading question. Why leading? Because the experimenter is using a different verb each time. When you say hit, in your schema, in your past knowledge, as per your knowledge, hit means hitting. Okay, smash means smashed completely. It's like more than a hit. It's like completely smashed. Okay, it's more stronger word. And when somebody says contact, it's just contacting. It's not hitting, it's just contacting. So this word contacting, smashed or hitting, according to our schema, it has a different influence on us. Okay, on our understanding. So when this kind of question was framed differently, that is, it is a leading question, the answers are also influenced by this question. People who were asked that what was the speed of the car when the cars smashed each other. So smashed itself is a leading term where one thinks that the speed of the car must be much higher. That is the reason they smashed each other. So you're likely to give a higher level of speed. So they gave 40 point something mile per hour. And when the experimenter asked that what was the speed of the car when they contacted each other, so they didn't smash, they just contacted each other. So contact itself means that they are just touching each other. So according to our schema of contacting is not too hard, it's very, very subtle. So automatically it is influencing your answer, and you're likely to give a speed or guess a speed of a low speed. So they gave an answer of 31.8 something miles per hour. So that is a lesser speed. So it clearly shows that how leading questions can actually influence your memory. So it can actually reconstruct your memory. Okay, so this was experiment 1. After that, in experiment part 2 of the same experiment, in part 2 they were called after a few weeks, and they had not rewatched the video. They were asked if they saw broken glass. So it was seen that people who were asked the question how this car smashed, what was the speed when cars smashed each other. So smashed itself, like I said, is a very strong word. They said that yes, the glass was broken. And the questions and the participants whom were asked that what was the speed when the cars contacted each other. Contacted means it didn't really smashed each other, it was just contacted, just kind of touching each other. So of course it is a very subtle, it seems like it is a very subtle contact, and the speed was low. So those people said, most of them, that they did not see any broken glass in the movie. So that means whether the glass was broken or not broken, That is not the question. The reality could be anything. The thing is that how leading questions and how it can actually have a reconstruction of the memory, how you tend to remember things because of your schema. So your schema, your imagination and everything is distorting your memory. So hence reconstructive memory, our memory is not reliable. Our memory is always being influenced by the cognitive processes. I hope that you have understood that how this experiment has shown that in part 1 and part 2 that how leading questions and how our schemas, everything, all these cognitive processes influences our memory, and our memory is reconstructed and it is not reliable. Now this was a supporting study. Now I am going to give you a counter argument study where it is against saying that memory is reliable. So we cannot say that memory is not reliable. Counter argument says that memory is reliable. Let's do the study. Counter argument is that memory is reliable. It was given by Yullie and Cutshall in 1986. Now, in response to Loftus research, Yullie and Cutshall 1986 carried out an experiment where they examined whether leading questions would affect the memory of eyewitnesses at a real crime scene. The crime scene was in Vancouver. A thief entered a gun shop and tied up the owner before stealing money and guns from the shop. The owner freed himself and, thinking that the thief had escaped, went outside the shop. But the thief was still there and shot him twice. Police had been called and there was gunfire, and the thief was eventually killed. As the incident took place in front of the shop, there were eyewitnesses. 21 were interviewed by the police. The researchers contacted the eyewitnesses 4 months after the event. 13 of the eyewitnesses agreed to the interview as a part of a study. They gave their account of the incident and then they were asked questions. 2 leading questions were used. Half the group was asked if they saw a broken headlight in the getaway car. The other half was asked if they saw a yellow panel on the car. The panel was actually blue. They were also asked to rate their stress on a 7-point scale. It was found that eyewitnesses were actually very reliable. They recalled a large amount of accurate detail that could be confirmed by the original police reports. They also did not make errors as a result of the leading questions, and those were most distressed by the situation had the most accurate memories. Now, you must have seen in this counter argument that memory is reliable. All the participants who witnessed this, whole scenario, this crime scene, they had very, very accurate details, accurate memory of all the details that had happened, and most of their answers were absolutely correct. So that means that memory is reliable. Okay. Now let's understand, very important, that what is the difference between Loftus and Palmer study and Yullie and Cutshall study. Now, why we need to see the difference between supporting study and the counter argument? Because when your discuss command term comes in your exam, discuss on the constructive memory, reconstructive memory, or whether memory is reliable or it is influenced by cognitive processes or no. It is very important that after writing the supporting study and the counter argument, you need to discuss it further. So this part that I'm going to tell you is really going to help you in your discussion, which definitely will give you good marks. So let's see that what is the difference between these two studies. Okay, so what are the key differences between Yullie and Cutshall 1986 and Loftus and Palmer 1974 experiments? Now, the first is that Yullie and Cutshall study had stronger ecological validity in comparison to Loftus and Palmer lab study. Now, we all know Loftus and Palmer study, it was a lab experiment, so it is an artificial setting. Yullie and Cutshall was it was a natural experiment, so it has a very strong ecological validity. Now, because they had actually witnessed a crime, they would have had an emotional response that is very different from what the students felt watching videos of drivers' education car crashes. In addition, there was archival evidence, police records of the original testimonies to confirm the accuracy of the testimonies. So that means that when we say that memory is reliable, emotions play a very huge role, which we were not considering in Loftus and Palmer study. In Loftus and Palmer study, emotions were not there because it was a lab experiment. We just saw a video. I mean, seeing a video is not creating that many emotions. You're not going under stress or trauma, things like that. So the intensity of the emotions is very, very less. That is the reason that you might not be able to recall those many things that accurately. But when your emotions are involved in something, when the intensity of emotions are really high, you're likely to remember things much better, which happened in Yullie and Cutshall experiment, where the people actually experienced this crime, this gunshot and everything. So there might be some trauma, lot of stress, and there were in high intensity of emotions in them while seeing all this. So this created accurate recalling from the memory. So that is very important, that emotions play a huge role in the recalling from the memory. However, Loftus and Palmer study has a higher level of reliability. Yullie and Cutshall study is not replicable and also not generalizable, since it was just one-off incident. There was no control of variables, so it is difficult to know the level of rehearsal that was used by the different eyewitnesses. It could be that those who agreed to be in the study had spent the most time thinking and reading about the case. So when we talk about reliability, obviously lab experiments are always highly reliable in the sense that they can be repeated again and again, and we can collect more evidence on the same. But in the Cutshall's counter argument study, it happened only once, so we can't really say if it is reliable. And maybe these people who agreed to come to this study would have read so much about this case, must be rethinking about it again and again and again. That rehearsal would have made the memory more accurate and they were able to recall it much better, which was not there in the lab experiment. So yes, this plays a huge role. Then third is, it may very well be that different types of memory are more reliable than others. Different memories may be located in different parts of the brain, and that they also may have different levels of reliability. So we all know there are different kinds of memories, semantic memory, episodic memory, flash bulb memory, and so on. And different types of memory are stored in different parts of our brain. So it is very difficult to say that what kind of memories we are able to recall better and what kind of memories we are not able to recall better. So these can also have an influence on the recalling of the memory. Here we are done with the reliability of cognitive processes, that is reconstructive of memory, and how cognitive processes influence our memory, how it is distorted. So I gave you the concept, I made you understand the concept, made you familiar with some of the important terminologies. I gave you one supporting study and one counter argument as well. So if you want more studies, what more you can write, I know IB students might have to write more studies for the same question. So if you want to know more, you can write in the comments below. I will definitely share more studies with you that you can write in your exam. And if you have not understood anything, even then you can write in the comments below. Or if you understood well, even then write in the comments below. I hope you like this video. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Keep watching my channel for all the videos on psychology.